If I ask you, imagine someone with a very high IQ, what would you think of? A smart neighbor whose mother boasts about him at the market day after day.
A cousin who was a straight-A student for years and is now studying at Polytech. Or a rich TikToker online who says 10 things, and 9 of them are life philosophies. Those images are almost entirely wrong. Because people with truly high IQs can explain complex problems clearly, logically, and step by step. Those images are almost entirely wrong. Because people with truly high IQs can explain complex problems clearly, logically, and step by step.
They might stay awake until 3 a.m., not because they're researching something great, but because they're rethinking a statement from 2 years ago.
And wonder if that statement hurt the other person. Most of the time, even though people around them see a very capable person, they are asking themselves one thing.
Are people overestimating me? If this sounds familiar, today I will talk about 7 strange habits of people with high IQs.
Things textbooks don't tell you. And leave a comment if you find anything similar to yourself. First, do you know this type of person? The group is arguing loudly, talking back and forth without progress. Then, someone quiet suddenly speaks up. In just one sentence, and the whole group suddenly falls silent. Not because they spoke loudly, but because the statement hit exactly what everyone was thinking.
But no one had found the words to say it. It sounds cool, but back home, that person lies down, and their brain starts.
Did everyone understand my meaning correctly? Or are they thinking I'm trying to act smart? Then they keep thinking, and thinking more. It's 1 a.m., and they still can't sleep. This is the first habit, and the least expected in people with high IQs. Not because they need comfort, but because there's a strange paradox. The deeper you understand something, the clearer you see all the areas you still lack.
Someone who has briefly studied psychology might confidently analyze others after reading just one book.
But those who studied psychology for 10 years often say, I don't fully understand. Their sharp thinking helps them analyze everything.
Yes. This same machine constantly builds a list of reasons why they aren't good enough. The best person in the group is often the most.
Second, at 11 p.m., they turn off the lights, lie down, close their eyes, and their mind starts imagining all sorts of things. 12 a.m. Actually, solving that problem in the other way seems better. Why didn't I think of it sooner?
1 a.m. Why is seawater salty, but rain is not? 2 a.m. Still thinking, still unable to sleep.
No deadline, no pressure, just a brain that won't shut down. Like a laptop where you've turned off the screen, but it's still running all sorts of things inside. Research shows that highly intelligent people tend to go to bed later, even when there's no external reason forcing them to stay awake.
It's not that they're addicted to their phones, or that they don't want to sleep. It's just their brain working overtime without permission.
While they will never fully fit into that. Third, there's a type of person where if you walk past their room and hear voices.
Hey, did you hear?
You walk in and find no one else in the room. They are talking to themselves, not whispering,
but speaking very clearly, with questions and answers, sometimes even arguments, cooking alone and suddenly explaining loudly to themselves
Why salt should be added before, not after. Walking on the street and suddenly realizing they've just spoken quite loudly for a while, looking around a bit.
then pulling out their phone, pretending to make a call. It sounds funny, but in reality, speaking aloud helps the brain process information differently than just thinking silently.
For people with high IQs, language is a tool for thinking, not just for communication. And sometimes they forget they're talking quite loudly to themselves in the supermarket. Fourth, you invite them for coffee on the weekend, and they immediately agree. But when they get home, they start thinking, how should I get there?
What if the car breaks down? What if it rains? What if the cafe is too crowded and there's no seat? If I don't know what to say, a contingency plan of the contingency plan. People around them often say a familiar phrase.
Stop, don't think so much. But actually, it's not that they want to think a lot. The stronger the brain, the better it is at imagining everything that could go wrong before it happens. Before you even worry about one thing, they've already thought of 10 scenarios and are worrying about the 11th. It's not pessimism. Before you even worry about one thing, they've already thought of 10 scenarios and are worrying about the 11th. It's not pessimism. But then they get up and go into the kitchen, stand there, look around, and turn around empty-handed, not remembering why they came in.
Can't find where they put the keys. Finally, they find them in the refrigerator. Not the first time. The name of the person just introduced 5 minutes ago is also gone.
It's not because they're forgetful.
but because their brain is processing too many things at once. So things like keys or names of new equipment.
It doesn't make it less frustrating, but at least now you know why. Sixth, I have a friend with whom talking always feels like.
Just finished reading a good book. Not because they talk a lot, but because every sentence they say uses the exact right words.
Not too much, not too little. But sometimes they use words you wouldn't expect. When you're surprised, they just shrug and say,
That was the most accurate word for that moment. It sounds strange, but research shows that people comfortable with a diverse vocabulary,
not because they lack more polite words, but because they understand language deeply enough to know exactly which word is most suitable for the situation. For them, words are simply tools, and a good craftsman only cares any tool works most effectively. Seventh, you invite them to a mutual friend's birthday.
A lively pub, loud music, bright lights, the whole table laughing and talking loudly. They go.
But when they get home, they look like they've just run a marathon. It's not because they weren't happy, not because they don't like their friends.
but while you're just enjoying a fun evening, their brain is processing everything at once. The music, the clinking of glasses,
The conversations at the next table, the slightly dazzling lights, the expressions of each person at the table, the atmosphere of the...
That's why, after a fun gathering, they need to go home and sit quietly alone for at least a while.
It's not because they are introverted or extroverted, but because their brain has just processed more information than almost everyone else in the room combined.
The 7 things just mentioned paint a very different picture of people with high IQs. Not absolutely confident people, not people who always know all the answers, not people with easier lives because they are smarter, but people who are sometimes exhausted by their own minds.
They are truly skilled in many ways, but they also experience anxiety, self-doubt, and some nights stay awake until 3 a.m. If you recognize yourself in the things just mentioned, it doesn't mean you have a problem. It just means you're operating with a brain that works differently from most people around you.
And now you understand why sometimes it feels so heavy. If you counted how many of these 7 habits are yours,
Please leave that number below. I'm really curious.